Welcome to the Dougherty County Board of Commissioners meeting with your chairman, Christopher S. Cohilas. Your commissioners include, from District 1, Commissioner Ed Newsom. From District 2, Commissioner Victor Edwards. From District 3, Commissioner Clinton Johnson. From District 4, Commissioner Russell Gray. From District 5, Commissioner Gloria Gaines. And from District 6, Commissioner Anthony Jones. Also joining us is your County Administrator, Michael McCoy, Assistant County Administrator, Scott Addison, County Clerk, Joanne Ware, and County Attorney, Spencer Lee. Thank you for joining your Dougherty County Commission meeting.
All right, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead and call to order the Dougherty County Commission regular meeting for October 4th, 2021. We'll begin with the roll call. Note that all commissioners are present in person with the exception of Commissioner Newsom. Are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
All right. Good morning. Good morning in the Big Apple. All right. If I would, please have everyone stand for the prayer and the pledge. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this time that we have to come together to do work for the citizens of Dougherty County. Thank you for the many resources that you've given us. Thank you for the spirit of collaboration and the understanding that as a team we can lead this community in a way that is better for it, better for our citizens, better for our families, and better for the citizens that we serve. Let us continue to remember that and let that principle guide us as we move forward in making decisions in the best interest of our citizens. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, consider for action the minutes of the August 16th regular meeting, August 30th special called meeting, and September 13th regular meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? There being none, we'll call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Give me 1 second. I'm looking through a few things. All right, in order to more efficiently manage the agenda, what I'm going to do is move my presentation to later on in the agenda. Frankly, as a professional courtesy and a courtesy to some of our folks that are going to be here. I know we have some folks from the Forestry Commission. We got Fredo Jackson here from Flint River Fresh, and we also have some staff members here, and I'll put my presentation later on in the agenda. Let's start with David Hodges, Chief Ranger, present to provide the Georgia Forestry Commission annual report. Good morning. How are you doing? Very good. Good to see you.
All right, good to see y'all.
Good morning.
Briefly just going to hit the highlights. I know y'all are busy this morning, but just some highlights from our FY 21 that runs from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 21. For the county, we issued 6,200 burn permits. That includes automated telephone services, which that system is down now because you no longer have to have, as of July 1st, you no longer have to have a permit to just burn yard debris in all counties in Georgia. And for the year, we had 9 wildfires totaling almost 70 acres. The average fire size was 7.75 acres. Response times from initial dispatch to initial attack during normal operating hours was 28.5 minutes, and after hours, weekends, and holidays was 57 minutes. We delivered over 8,000 seedlings in the county from our nursery to landowners. We also, through a grant, received something to help the county and city out. Hopefully we don't ever have to use it again, use it after tropical storms, hurricanes, tornadoes. Rubber track, skid steer to help clear roads after storms. And we can also provide a chainsaw strike team. I think a lot of people knew last year from July to December, we hosted the health department for COVID testing. They used one of our big truck sheds. And then we hosted GMA for vaccination site. And I don't know if many people know this, but a couple weeks ago, health department contacted me. And we started last Monday with COVID testing at our office using the truck shed again. So they're going to be, they started last Monday, and just until the numbers get low enough that, we're no longer needing to do mass testing. I think right now they're averaging 50, 60 people a day. So, one day maybe we'll put this behind us. But also, each fall we read 79 irrigation meters in the county that EPD uses for, every few years, Florida wants to sue Georgia, saying we're using too much, the farmers are using too much water. And that's where these numbers come into play in the courtroom to prove that we're not using too much water. So it's a lot of people wonder why we're riding around fields and everything like that, thinking, we're going to a wildfire, but yeah, it's just the water metering program. And that's really all I have. So,
Very
got any
good.
questions?
Any comments or questions for our Chief Ranger?
Yes, sir. I missed, you said you got a grant for equipment?
Yes, sir.
What kind of equipment was it? I didn't hear you.
It's being wildland firefighters, since we go all over the country during our slope, usually during the summer, we have fewer fires. So we get to go out west every year, and we can apply for firefighting equipment. Mm-hmm. And skid steers is something we have used on fires out west before. So we was able to get a skid steer through that grant.
Okay. All right. It's good news.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jones.
Yeah, I heard you say that you all don't have to call to get a burn permit anymore now. Did I hear that? I couldn't hardly hear you, but did I hear you say that?
Yes, sir. It's just for yard debris.
Okay, just
If
for
you
yard
have large
debris.
piles or acreage burns, you still have to call and get one.
Okay, so if you burn it in the yard, you don't
Yes,
have to call now.
Yeah, if you're just raking up leaves in your yard, you don't have to call anyone.
Okay, now just say, for example, because I think the burn permit, when we used to be able to call, that was to make sure that if anything got out of hand, that you all would come, and if things got out of hand and you did it without doing the call in, and a fire got out and burned out a whole lot of acreage and so forth, then there was a penalty for that. So what's going to happen now, just say, for example, if we decide to burn, and then all of a sudden a wind comes up and you got it, will you all come out and assist with that, or how does
Yes,
that
sir.
work now?
We still come out and assist. Most of the time, the fire department beats us there. And if they deem that they need forestry, they call, and we'll come and assist the fire department. There are some guidelines with it. You have to be 50 feet from a structure, 25 feet from the woodlands. You have to, stay with your fire till it's out. Mm-hmm. And you have to have a source of water on hand, just garden hose. And it's from sunrise to sunset, the time frame. Okay. And you have to be kind of aware of the weather conditions. So it puts more responsibility on the person burning, but they're thinking, if they follow these guidelines, then they shouldn't have a problem burning.
Okay. All right, appreciate it.
So far, we haven't had, this started July 1st, and so far we haven't had any calls for.
Okay. Well, that's good. Appreciate it. I just wanted to know because I'm a victim of burning sometimes.
Yes, sir, you'll be good.
Well, let me just say this. I'm very thankful for y'all's partnership. And as we went through COVID, I was having to directly communicate with the head of GMA, the deputy director of GMA, and Y'all were very instrumental in making sure that we had access to that state-operated facility that was so integral for us overcoming the first wave of COVID. And just very, very appreciative for your hard work and teamwork.
Okay.
That really makes a big difference.
Yeah, and when you know, when they're standing out there under these tents, 100 degrees, it's rain, you know, thunderstorms coming up, they're exposed to that weather, and, you know, just trying to give them a safer place to be for
No
these
doubt,
testing.
no doubt. Appreciate that very
Yes,
much.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Fernando Jackson with Flint River Fresh, present to give a year one recap of the Dougherty Fresh initiative. Dougherty Fresh is a partnership with Flint River Fresh, UGA Extension Office in Dougherty County. Good morning, Former Fredo.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So in front of you guys, you have a presentation, so I will not try to repeat too much what you guys can actually read and just really talk about the highlights. So again, we want to just thank you for this opportunity this morning. Can you guys hear me through the mask clearly?
Oh, yes, sir.
Ms. Gaines, you can hear me? Okay. All right, and so this is again a collaboration piece between Flint River Fresh, Dougherty County, as well as UGA Extension. And our goal is, our mission is to empower the community to choose fresh food, produce options through education, availability, collaboration, and trainings to improve the overall health of our community. And so one thing that we've done this past year is we created a digital survey where we actually went through, you go ahead and skip ahead to a couple of the slides, to the goals to identify. All right, there we go. And so one of the things that we did before we really went into the community to start this year was that we did a survey. It was sent out through social media, online, and as well as we did canvassing in the neighborhoods with the Albany Housing Authority. And so with the survey, we found exactly what we already knew, that people were interested in improving the overall neighborhood health. There were issues related to transportation, to people receiving fresh fruits and vegetables. And then also people are interested in community gardens or urban farms being in their communities where they can walk and access fresh produce. So with that, we went upon what we call our objectives. And so one of the things that we established is a weekly mobile produce bag distribution. We really kicked it in high gear this summer with the Albany Parks and Recreation, where during 4 weeks of their summer camp, we provided over 320 bags of fresh fruits to the young kids at their summer camps every Monday. And the response from the kids was just like overwhelming, where they would like line up, help us unload the vehicles, take their bags, pass it to like their friends. It was just so much excitement that the first time when they looked at us, they were kind of hesitant. By the second time, they were like, here comes the farmers, loading up, taking fresh fruits, and some of them actually pulling an apple out the bag and eating it, and having some of the counselors come to us and say that this is probably the only fruits that these kids will receive for the week. Was really just, I mean, it's moving that sort of work. And in addition to that, we partnered with the Albany Housing Authority and identified 8 neighborhoods where there were individuals that were 55 and up, or individuals dealing with like disability or homebound, that we're still continually providing fresh produce bags Tuesday and Wednesday, and we rotate through the neighborhoods directly, and that's been a blessing because we've been able to really work with the Dougherty County Public Works. They've come and helped us out sometimes, in addition to the Housing Authority and UGA Extension. And we're also, because of the produce bags, able to support organizations like Family Literacy Connection, where once a month we do a huge box that's for 80 of their participants, again, with fresh fruits and vegetables. 80% of the fruits and vegetables that we put in these containers comes from local or Georgia-grown farmers, and then we supplement other items like apples and bananas as part of the program. Next slide. And so our other objective is that we are really, and this is the ask of the Board of Commissioners, is that we are really pushing this Food Policy Council. And where we want to work with multiple organizations that are dealing with food access, food insecurities, health issues. We can go on down the line where we can come together on a monthly basis to discuss how can we create sustainable long-term change in those communities and neighborhoods that we know need it. And we realize that not one organization can be the lead. because our work profiles alone allows for us to be experts in certain lanes. And so we've learned that collaboration is the best way for us to go. And so we're looking for more organizations to join this monthly meeting, and a lot of the information of how to get involved with the Dougherty Fresh program is already on the Dougherty County's website for people to find out more information, things like that. Next slide. And so why am I here? To really talk about year one and what we've done. And so year one, we've already distributed over 2,680 bags of fresh produce. In addition to that, we've given out 190 what we call do-it-yourself, self-contained bucket garden kits so people can learn how to grow and from a small space. And our train of thought is if you can grow in a 5-gallon bucket, you can eventually grow into a raised garden bed, and you can eventually grow into an in-ground plot, but allow for people to do it gradually. And in addition to that, we've done 16 what we call community workshops. We're actually teaching people how to grow seasonal fruits and vegetables. And then also we've done this thing where we've collaborated where we have 8, like I said, again, these mobile markets that are weekly in the community engagement. And then we're also using these mobile markets to pass out information related to cooking recipes, fitness exercise, activities. And we're always looking for the next thing that we can come into the door and partner with somebody to share this information that we've collected or that we have on hand to distribute through our community partners. Next slide. And so just a closing highlight is that we have a community garden now in the Holly Home neighborhood. Really excited, it's 8 raised garden beds that are 4 feet by 16 inches, 16 feet long. And we'll be planting again for the upcoming fall. Next slide. And then our biggest kickoff is last time we were here in February, we mentioned that we were going to do the Spring Festival. So we did it again in May at the Riverfront Park. And we had over 500 individuals attend. We also had Phoebe there doing vaccination with the mobile wellness clinic. We had Albany State University. We had the Department of Public Health there. And it was, we even had 4C Academy students that we do a current agribusiness program with them through this grant, through this funding, where we work with their students to teach them the ins and outs of agriculture, but also a tier towards community service and giving back to the community. And then also at our Spring Festival, we distributed over, again, about 50 garden buckets, 50 plants to people that needed and want to grow food, fruits, and vegetables. Next slide. And so this past week, as we've kind of seen the pandemic rise up and people really not coming out to our workshops as much, we started a monthly virtual gardening series. So how we look at it is that we, again, work with our community partners, find out what people should be doing this particular month in their community gardens, and we just give them basic instructions online, virtual through Zoom. And this was just a snapshot of what we did this past September the 18th, where we showed people how to start collards and turnips in 5-gallon buckets online through Zoom, and we record it. And again, so we can share it backwards, people ask us questions and things like that. And so that's just the basic highlights of what we've done so far are related to the Dougherty Fresh program. And so I'd like to open it up for any questions or comments as well.
Sure, any comments or questions for Farmer Fred? Commissioner Jones.
Yes, I understand that I see we got Dougherty County Extension Service on the front, that you all are collaborating with the Dougherty County Extension Office, but I don't see any 4-H's involved in this thing here. I think, I don't know whether you all have anything as far as that, for working with them, because I remember when my days doing as a 4-H club agent, and I used to go in and I asked the kids to name two pieces of farm equipment, and they'll say a bicycle and so forth. But I think you need to have these 4-H's involved with this. I don't know if maybe you want to elaborate and tell me a little bit about it, but I'd like to see 4-H's involved, because this is what we learn by doing.
Yes, sir. So that goes back to the whole Food Policy Council piece about bringing in multiple organizations to help us guide this ship. And so we have done the outreach to reach out to them about what we have going, how we can include, and I think a lot of it too from our Flint River Fresh work in the school system with the pandemic and how to navigate during COVID has also been a hindrance as well, as far as really gaining hold. And I also want to think too that recently Dougherty County Commission just hired a new 4-H rep. And so we're still just building with them, but that is in our work plans, because part of what we want is as much youth engagement, youth involvement, and opportunities for young people to be, I like to say, the leaders of like our food access work here in Dougherty County.
Right, okay. I just wanted to call that to your attention.
I think that's a very good point, Commissioner Jones, and I appreciate that. And Farmer Fredo, I think that would be very good to get the 4-H involved, because it's a great leadership program, life skills program, and it matches up perfectly with everything you're doing. And it's not a criticism at all. I understand all of the hindrances that were there, but I think that would be a valuable, very, very valuable. And I've encountered some of the kids that have interacted with your school gardens and whatnot, and just, this is something that frustrates me. Some folks really don't have exposure to fresh fruits and vegetables. They really just think that you know, a bag of Cheetos is the way to go. And frankly, I mean, it's a comment on the fact that we live in a food desert. And the more we can sort of change kids' minds in how they approach things and their eating choices and the nutritional choices and what that does to brain development and learning and all of that, it's a huge deal. So I very much appreciate your comments, Commissioner Jones.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. And again, not for any criticism, I was just wanting to bring them up because when I was doing 4-H club work, the kids get excited. I had a little program that I used to take a 2-liter bottle, take all the wrappers off of it, and you probably know where I'm going with this. And you put a napkin in there, and you keep the napkin wet, and you put some corn seeds or some pea seeds, and I call that little demonstration, watch a seed grow. And then the children, I mean, 5th graders, that's what we're talking about, and they watch that thing grow. And then once the seed grows, we transplant take the seed from the 2-liter bottle and put it in the ground, and then we go from there. Then they get a chance to get a pea off of it or something. Watch a seed grow. So that's why I'm so interested in what you're doing and getting those 4-H's involved. I think it would be an excellent.
And that's part of the reason why we created these do-it-yourself bucket kits. Because we realize even when we have a community garden space, you're kind of limited to that location.
Right.
And so only so many people can be at those 4x8 or 4x16 boxes. So what can we give individuals to take home so they can watch that piece grow? So just with our virtual learning with the as you saw the image of the young man that was there. So you have a collard plant, and we give you the option of it being a seed or a transplant, and we do a presentation on it. But then we also add with UGA and our SNAP Ed partners recipes that are related to it, so you can understand how to cook it and prepare it, because we know that those that are parents know, like if your child comes home excited and they want to learn something new, as a parent, we want to encourage that as much as we can. And then if our child captures it, we have no choice as parents but to lift them up as well. And so I definitely would take the conversation and the points that were made today and take it back to Extension's office and just emphasize to them that we want to have this collaboration be a part of our Dougherty Fresh initiative.
Mr. Chief,
Yes, Commissioner Gaines, please.
I'd just like to share something that is very simple that has worked. How are you, Farmer Fredo? How are you this morning?
I am busy.
I know you are.
Yeah, but I'm
always
doing well,
are.
Commissioner Gaines. I thank you
You're
so
like
much.
the ever-ready bunny, from what I can see.
What's that, ma'am?
I said you're like the ever-ready bunny.
Yeah, but I actually have learned the appreciation of still time and of meditation and of podcasts.
Oh, you do? Okay, great. I'll look forward to the meeting on Wednesday.
Yes, ma'am.
Something that has worked for me and for some of the other folks in my family, and is relatively inexpensive and easy to do, are kiddie pool gardens.
Can you say that again?
Kiddie pool gardens?
Yes.
Those work very well, and they're inexpensive, and you can grow quite a lot in a kiddie pool. You know. Just punch some holes in the bottom of the kiddie pool, put in some great soil, and put it on bricks, and it's raised, and old people like me don't have to bend all the way down. So it's a good solution, and I've grown fresh vegetables in it for the last few years.
Yeah, and I forgot one thing that's not in the slide. One thing, we started the lunch is a program called Grow Your Groceries,
Right.
where we do garden installations for individuals that meet a certain qualification. We have an application, and we going to roll that out going into the spring, because we also found that people that are older or having like make a financial choice, that if we could take that burden off of them, so to speak, and provide those for them. And then another opportunity is that we're looking at what you're talking about, creating what we call kiddie corners in some of these community garden spaces, so that the young kids, because in that shot for Holly Holmes, one of our moments was this maybe 2 or 3 year old young lady that came up to the garden bed, and she had like a tomato plant in her hand, and she just went straight into the soil with it, and you could just see her, and she wanted to plant every tomato in the garden space, and her mother saying, you got to share with other people, and she was like, I want to plant. So that sort of energy is what we want, and that's why I love saying their community garden spaces with everyone. So I will take the kiddie pool. I will look at, probably can get them inexpensive now because we're about to go into the fall, so people are probably doing some clearance sales.
Because the raised beds are pretty expensive, you know. I don't know if you have an average cost for those raised beds, but they
With lumber
can be
price,
pretty-
like this summer, we were doing like, we're probably spending about like $150 to like $200 for like a 4x8
They're
raised
prohibitive
bed.
in some instances, but they work very well for older people who don't want to bend down, and it controls the grass very well. So
Yeah, we
that's
don't
a
want-
good solution for older folks.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
If you put the black plastic in, you know, you'll be able to control the weeds better.
yes, thank you.
What are we growing for the winter? What are your winter vegetables?
What's that?
What are you growing for the winter,
For the-
fall?
Oh, man, we got collard greens, we got turnips, we got mustard greens, we got rutabagas, carrots, lettuce, radishes, Swiss chard, spinach. If you have some fruit trees, we have some oranges coming off, Satsuma oranges as well. So that's what's happening right now. So I don't like to talk about food too early in the morning because
So oranges are being grown more and more in Georgia?
yeah, they're like oranges and apples tend to come off about like this time of year, as well as persimmons. And so at our community spaces, we oftentimes introduce fruit trees as well, because if there's not a big space to do a garden, we can also plant some trees that are there that'll start producing every second or third year. As long as we keep fertilizing and do the proper pruning, that can also be another means, just like at our Fifth Avenue site. I've come to find out that here in Southwest Georgia, they don't want to wait for the plums to turn all the way red. They eat them when they're green.
Yeah.
Because I would show up at the garden site and all the plums were just gone. And the same thing relates to apples. Like they won't even let the apples get the full size. They eat them at the size of like a crab apple phase and enjoy it like that. And so and then also our spaces are utilized where people are learning for themselves. And then we always crack the joke about, what did you learn how to do this at? They're like, well, I went to one of our Build a Garden workshops and learned how to do it. And while we bring in the Department of Public Health, while we bring in Phoebe Hospital, the school system, UJ Extension, because all these partners already have the correct resources that have done the vetting process of how to teach it and to explain it to people. And so we just take the role as Flint River Fresh. Let's build the space. Let's create the space. And then the last thing I forgot to mention too, we have started partnering with Feed the Valley. And so we're utilizing like their space to help with creating our bags, storing the bags before we take them out into the community. So Cheryl Maddox and their team, as a matter of fact, in a couple hours, we'll begin bagging for this week, and they've been very helpful. So as they are expanding, reaching out, we're looking at how to collaborate and to bring the fresh produce in addition to the other things they're able to supplement. So eventually, and that's why we're emphasizing about this Food Policy Council of multiple groups coming together and working together, because collectively we can reach more, we can impact more, and allows for the responsibility to be community-wide. So like in other communities where we've done similar programs, it's not just the groups like I named, we actually have the fire department participate because they're about the safety of our community.
Right.
We've had the emergency services groups participate and help with the distribution of these produce bags, and then it just allows for those individuals will see that the entire county wants everyone to have access and everyone to live a good, healthy life.
Is someone from the Albany Rescue Mission for the homeless, is someone at your coalition? Is someone from the Albany, like homeless coalition or rescue mission at your table?
No, sir.
Okay, okay.
So that connection would definitely, and we take produce, extra stuff through
Yeah.
Feed the Valley to other community partners, but us coming together for a meeting, no, sir.
Okay, okay. I think the homeless would be a good avenue, even just to work in the gardens and produce their own food as well.
Yes, yes, sir.
All right, thanks a lot, sir. Great ideas, great energy.
Very good.
You still have a partnership with Resora, right? You're still working with them?
Still working towards it, but it'd be nice again, like those collaborations, we just want to bring people to the table so we can all just sit down and just work together. You know, we all are all over the place, but we could just pause for a 30-minute meeting once a month, every 2 months. We can get a lot more accomplished in the long game.
Commissioner Gray?
Yep, I just want to say thank you. I think this program started organically, not to be tongue-in-cheek there. It's grown countywide, but what I appreciate most about this is the fact that it has become a single entity made up of a lot of different unique entities. And it makes it easy for big entities like Phoebe and UGA and Dougherty County to partner with one organization that serves all through different means. And I appreciate your transparency that everybody brings a different specialty or professional skill set to the table. And I think that creates a very robust organization. And this is probably what I would consider one of the best collaborative models that I have seen that doesn't, it embodies altruism. Everyone does the work, but nobody is after the credit. The credit is in the results and the benefit to the community, and then seeing, our children who we're hoping will love the opportunity to know where their food comes from, take part in growing it, and enjoy that and instill that into the next generation. So thank you for your leadership, your hard work, and appreciate the fact that you can meditate your way through the craziness.
And like I said, again, this is collaboration. And my closing piece is what we found out during the pandemic, even though we had like these food drives that were set up and people could like come, there were individuals that didn't have the mobility to be able to get to these spaces. And so that was one of the reasons why we went to a produce bag, farm fresh to the door. And like every 2 weeks, when we knock on these individual doors, I mean, it's humbling, because when you walk into a person's space and you actually see the environment that they live in, and individuals are really not whole. They might just have health issues, legs amputated, partially blind, things like that. And you're that knock of hope. And they're like, oh, it's you again, and they anticipate us showing up. And that's part of the reason why we want to present to you guys today, was that we wanted you to hear this story and know that we are out in the community doing work, and we want others to be a part of like this to be a part of the smiling faces, and like I get emotional just thinking about the people that we see on a weekly basis, and how, like we said, I don't know how they would get it if we didn't show up, and also thinking about the farmers that we're supporting as well, and those local businesses that have also jumped on board to assist us with doing this, and then again having the foundation of Dougherty County applying for that Aetna Foundation grant that allows for us to kind of keep this rolling and get it started, and knowing that we're managing it, we're doing it, and we can hopefully see this as part of what Dougherty County is just known for across the state and across the region, and even on a national level.
I want to echo that. I have some particularly strong thoughts and feelings about this. I don't remember how many years ago, a good friend that's known to both of us, he will remain nameless, came to me with the concept of starting this. And starting it, and it was very key that there be a partnership with the county. want to thank all my commissioners, both past and the current iteration of commissioners, because without everyone approving that partnership, it would not be here. And that is a fact. It's an absolute fact, because while we don't write a check to y'all, we've partnered, and it was very important for Flint River Fresh to be able to put the Dougherty County emblem on its letters, saying that they had the support of the county in accessing very important grants, accessing USDA grants. And I've watched this seed literally grow over the past several years. I remember when Fredo put in your application, when we first announced the partnership. I think you accidentally sent your application to me originally, but I've watched it grow from a project where we had a few little gardens to where I have hosted the governor here in Dougherty County, and food that was supplied by Flint River Fresh was used to make the meals. I have introduced Fredo to executives from across the state and the country here at Pretoria Fields. Folks, I'm talking top executives from Delta, Coca-Cola, et cetera. And the food that was grown here in Southwest Georgia through a collaborative process was the food that was served, and Fredo was the main attraction. But it's not just you, it is what you represent, and it's the project and the purpose and the cause that had any one commissioner just try to go and just do this as their one little thing and keep it to themselves, it would have never grown. It had unanimous support from the entire commission and continues to have unanimous support from the entire commission. And being able to put that seal and that partnership has been very, very, very valuable. I also want to thank and commend Commissioner Gaines for her hard work and volunteerism as it relates to Flint River Fresh as well. That's been very integral, and very thankful for that. This is the type of partnership that I'm proud about and will continue to support very much so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next, Mr. Wright. William Wright, DBA Afram Tech Inc., present to continue the presentation on subsequent analysis of intervening issues with 9 metro counties in the state of Georgia as compatible to Dougherty County, and provide an update on the SBA supplemental advance.
Well, greetings, good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
You have the handout on page 1. What we are bringing to your attention is about, this is a separate program, but it's all under the SBA. Previously, we presented to you the data on the payroll protection program. Now, back on March 30th of this year, the congressional delegation met at the Albany Welcome Center, and we presented some information to Senators Ossoff and Warnock about how the Paycheck Protection Program had a significant adverse impact on African-American-owned business. And one of the things we pointed out was the rotation. That is, whatever you have invested in payroll, you only got 20 cents out of each dollar back. And we've already presented data to the commission showing that 95% of African-American owned businesses have only one employee, so that just further contravene any potential for real success. So just 2 weeks ago, the United States Census Bureau released this data on profiles of cities in the United States. And as you know, on September 21st, the city of Albany was the highest in the state of Georgia for having adversely and disproportionately highest poverty in the state, and we were number 12 in the nation. Understanding, of course, that there are 80,000 governments in the United States, and from time to time that number will oscillate a little bit. But we were number 12 in poverty in the nation. The first row to economic opportunity and dignity is to get a job. So the Paycheck Protection Program and the Target Advance are designed to create jobs, and that's what we've been working on. Now, on page 1, we point out that what we're doing is trying to build capacity and create jobs. And under the SBA Target Advance, we've done about 125 of those. We did 2,500 of the Paycheck Protection Program. And the Target Advance, the benefit of this program is that any money you advance does not have to be paid back. So that is key. And if you know anything about the income derivation theory, a person's dignity does not rise so very much unless, of course, they know Jeff Bezos or some of the other billionaires who can give them some kind of assistance. But it is a job. That's the only road that we have in the United States, other than the exception that we provided. So, if you look then at the very bottom of this, it provides the $15,000. That's what the SBA Target is. It's called Target because as a result of that meeting back on March 30th, you can only qualify for this grant. It is called a loan, but it is a grant from its very inception. You can only qualify if you live in a highly impoverished area, and we are 12th in the nation out of 80,000, and we were number 1 in the state of Georgia. So let's go then on the next page, and let's look at page 3 there. You notice there it's in bold page, the Target Idle Advance and Supplemental Target Advance. You see what the contents are. Now, you can only get this grant if, of course, you live in a poverty-stricken area such as Albany and Dougherty County being the highest in 12th highest in the nation and the highest in Georgia. The contents tell you that the program overview, the advance, and advance is just that. On occasion, the SBA will advance the targeted business $5,000. And then they get to supplement if they can surpass all of the roadblocks that are there, because there are a lot of them. It is much more tedious to complete, and it is very time consuming. So let's look then at that. When we go over to page 4, you see there a map. The first thing we have to do is we have to actually go to the SBA website and see if that person's address is applicable. Now, that's just one of the roadblocks. If you not show up in that area with a plus, once we put the address in, the key to understand this is, it's your business address no matter where you live. So it is your business address that qualifies you. So once we can get the map tool to identify that this firm is indeed in a poverty-stricken area, i.e. the city of Albany or Dougherty County, that's the first roadblock you have to overcome. Then you have to key in 3 years of Excel data about what the person's income status has been over those 3 years. And of course, you have to have a bona fide bank account. It cannot be a personal account. It must be a bank account under the name of the applicant. It cannot be a joint account with anyone else. So there are 4 or 5 roadblocks in there. And you look on page 5, you see this is just an example of 2 that are still in limbo, because once you submit all this information, then one of the technicians will review that. They will check and see if your bank account is bona fide, that is under your name, and that existed before the onset of the pandemic. If that is the case, then it proceeds onward. And if all of the information that they check, they look at 2 months, March of 2020, and see if there was a 30% downfall in your income as transmitted by the pandemic. So you can see then how that can be very, very tedious, and it takes about 5 months from the time that the applicant submit the application and it's subsequently approved, and then you'll get an email that will tell you the money's in your account. If for whatever reason you change the account, then that money is going to stay there. It's not transportable. It does not follow you. So it's important to understand. Now, the SBA has authorized a technical fee of $2,500 for doing this. And out of the 125 firms, we have assisted only about 20% of those actually paid anything to a Tech or Conseco. So that was another contribution that we made to the community. So we'll stop here and then we'll come to you probably November the 8th or somewhere in there, and that will probably be the last update until 2022 that we will give you. If there are any changes, then we'll let you know. So that takes care of it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Well, a question?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right. Consider for action the acceptance of the annual resolution authorizing the Southwest Georgia Regional Commission to execute and file the renewal of the annual application on behalf of Dougherty County with the Georgia Department of Transportation and the United States Department of Transportation for a grant for public transportation assistance under Section 5311 Regional Transit Program. Mr. McCoy.
We stepped out.
Mr. Chairman, you want to go back to 6A?
What's that? I'm gonna do that a little bit later.
Okay. Mr. McCoy stepped out.
I was gonna move through our business. He did. Okay. All right. Come back to that.
I mean, but it's the
Do we really need to talk about it? Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? There being none, call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Consider for action the nomination of the county voting delegate at the ACCG Reconnect Conference Business Session on November 13th, 2021 in Savannah, Georgia. This is for me to address. I'm going to open this up for nominations.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Anthony Jones if he's
All right.
going to attend the conference.
All right. Any other nominations? Nominations are closed. Those in favor of Commissioner Jones to represent us as the voting delegate, please signify with the sign of aye. Aye. All right.
You do want to do it, don't you?
Congratulations or condolences, depending on however you view that. All right. Very good. Consider for action the recommendation from the Emergency Medical Services Department to apply for a State of Georgia fiscal year 2020 how do you say that? Naloxone statewide initiative grant in the amount of $16,692 to purchase a year's supply of naloxone. This is a 100% grant with no local match required. I'm sure we're all in favor of this, but I don't know what naloxone is, and I'm sure you're going to tell me. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Narcan.
Okay. What is it?
Narcan. It's
I got you.
Yes, sir.
Narcan. It's what they administer to folks when they've overdosed. Since there's been a shift, obviously, in the opioid marketplace, I know that we saw, sadly, a large number of deaths, that were opioid related, but then there were a lot that were related to folks coming off of opioids.
Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming Narcan it plays a role in that. Can you just talk about that for a second?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, McCoy, Mr. Lee. The Narcan, the situation that we had was people were going to get like a surgery. They were being prescribed opiates. 3 to 5 days they could get addicted in that format. The physicians now are no longer writing scripts for the opiate type medication. They're going to other meds. people that are addicted are turning to other avenues, illegal street drugs to get that. So now we're seeing not only they're reaching out for opiates, but heroin, including fentanyl. The Narcan is used as an antidote for an opioid-based type substance. So what we're using the Narcan for is when we get called to an unresponsive patient, we go in there. Previously, we had to start an IV and administer the Narcan through IV access. With this grant, we're able to dispense the medication through their nose. It's a little capsule that we inject right there. We push the button, it dispenses the Narcan spray into their nose. And it's helping to get those people that are breathing 3 to 4 times a minute so that we can get them out of it as soon as possible to save a life.
Understood. All right, very good. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and second. Any discussion? There being none, call them out for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, Mr. McCoy, I'm going to go ahead and let you do your update on the proposed tennis center, then I'm going to roll into my presentation, and then we'll roll into Mr. Lee.
All right, good deal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a follow-up per Commissioner Johnson's request. Hello? Can you hear
Yes.
me? Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good deal. So this is a follow-up per Commissioner Johnson's request at the last meeting. Wanted to let you know that we've been working nonstop really on this tennis center. We'll have a recommendation to you within the next 30 days. Right now, we have recently, as of Friday, we have some preliminary plans, but we also have recognized several challenges in that space once you physically go there, because there are factors that you can't see on paper.
Right.
So we're trying to work around those things. Also, we are further investigating expanding parking, because right now the way it's proposed to be laid out, there may be inadequate parking. And so we're trying to work through that. And once we do, again, within the next 30 days, it will likely be sooner, we'll have 2 options to put in front of.
2 location options, you're saying?
No, 2 design options.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming, well, I didn't mean, did someone else? Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
You might ask the question. I guess my question is, have we finalized the acquisition of the property from the Boys Club?
We have received an amount, an appraised amount from them, or an amount that the board would accept. It's around $45,000. I think is that right?
From the city or from Boys and Girls Club?
Boys and Girls Club.
I think it's 60.
60? Okay, 60.
How much land is that?
Around 60,000.
How much land?
Oh, I'm not sure
Okay.
what the acreage is on their parcel. And yeah, and of course, this is fluid because we're also talking to them currently about possible additional Boys and Girls Club property that we weren't initially looking at. Yes, so that number is going to be revised if what we're working on now works out.
Correct. Well, it sounds like we're putting the cart before the horse here. So I think what we need to probably look in terms of is making sure we got the park, and I think all this stuff needs to be laid out before we do anything to make sure that area is going to suffice and be exactly what we need there. So that's what I'd like to do, first. And I guess you'll come back with this in the next 30 days. But before we start entertaining buying anything, I know we talked about it, but we got a roadblock here. We make sure that we're clear.
Understood. Appreciate your comments. I just say this parenthetically. I've had the opportunity to do some traveling over the past couple of months, and I'm not suggesting what the recommendations should be, but I will say I had the opportunity to view some pickleball courts that were in a downtown area. I don't know if that's still part of the design or not, but it was amazing to me to see the number of folks that were over the age of 50, that were out and that were being active and that were making use of the pickleball courts. It's less strenuous than tennis, and I mean, I'm talking about some competitive folks. I mean, we're very, very competitive, and it was just a pleasure to see. So I just provide that as a parenthetical comment. So.
And I saw that on, I saw a piece on Lester Hope's. He had it on his show about pickleball. So this pickleball thing is catching traction. I'm still behind, but it's catching traction.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
One
Yes,
comment, and actually a question for you, Mr. McCoy. I noticed that right across Jefferson, Phoebe has kind of an empty lot that is for sale. That, to me, I kind of can view that as a overflow parking. You know, would that be an opportunity to talk with Phoebe? You know, see, obviously it's for sale right now. But if they were going to pitch in toward landscaping because they believe in this project and want to back it, you know, maybe instead of that type of support, they could look at just, you know, giving, you know, donating that property to the project for overflow parking. It really wouldn't have to be anything more than crush and run in there, and maybe some security lights and, you know, a crosswalk across Jefferson just to make sure everybody can get across safely. But, you know, that's certainly an option to look at.
Yes, sir, we're aware, and we're evaluating all parking expansion opportunities in that area.
Very good.
So in the next 30 days, we'll have at least 2 proposals to you that will have addressed all of these things that we're working on currently.
Very good. Ms. Howell, do we have the presentation loaded? Give me 1 second.
You weren't kidding when you said you had a presentation.
Yeah, well, it's not the
He
big.
was up in D.C. I know he didn't want to come back empty-handed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm pulling up some of my notes. Do we have a clicker?
Just clap twice.
Yeah, like a clapper commercial. Clap on, clap off. If you don't mind. Thank you, Wendy. Just some pictures. I like for folks to. Thank you. All right, so I wanted to give everyone an update. As you may or may not be aware, you know, each year, and I remember when I first came to Albany 18 years ago, and shortly after I arrived, one of the big concerns was at that time was BRAC, which was that we were very, very, very worried. And this was around the time that, you know, we lost Firestone, you know, shortly thereafter Cooper Tire. We were worried about Procter & Gamble, and then we were worried about BRAC, which was potentially threatening MCLB Albany, which is our largest employer. It employs about 4,000 plus people each year between civilian and non-civilian employees, and it's a huge, huge asset and money driver for our community. And frankly, it's also an incredibly important installation in terms of the Department of Defense. And so prior to me ever getting involved in being in public office, there was a substantive change in the philosophical approach of how to advocate for MCLB Albany. And I want to applaud this commission and its past iterations and past staff, current staff, for working to do things that actually have made MCLB Albany much more efficient and much more, makes it a lot easier to advocate for it. And whereas the discussion points used to be 15, 16 years ago, please don't shut our site down, don't shut down our base. Now it is, we're going up there and we're bragging on our base in comparison to other bases, and you never know what Congress is going to do. But we have worked very hard, and I think it's important sometimes to revisit past victories and understanding how we got here. I mean, this commission, through the Payroll Development Authority, and I serve on the Payroll Development Authority. The past chairman served on the Payroll Development Authority. Established a partnership to create the biomass plant, which is integral in supplying power to MCOB Albany. Secondarily, the county has a landfill to energy project that is unrivaled in the nation, and it supplies energy to the base as well. Next year, they will actually be able to say that they are truly net zero with respect to their energy needs, and that is, I think they're already there, but they have to have a year's worth of data to be able to say that. So literally, they're self-sustaining in terms of their energy. That being said, on January 22nd, 2017, when it got hit by an EF3 wedge tornado that ripped 67 miles across the entire county and did $323 million worth of damage out there, I remember driving down the road, going past MCLB, looking at Procter & Gamble, driving out to the damage, and thinking to myself, oh my God, what's going to happen? Are we going to lose MCLB Albany? And I can't tell you what goes into their decision-making process as they tackle different problems, but I was amazed and impressed by the fact that they immediately began rebuilding as opposed to looking to a different location. And I say all that to say this: we never know what factors play in to those victories, but it was a big deal that they did rebuild, and they are doing so and continuing to reinvest out there. And I got to think that a lot of the investments that this county has made have allowed that to be more easy and better. Secondarily, I also want to remind everyone that we voted unanimously several years ago to, along with the city, to approve the consolidation of the Guard onto the base. And I think about two and a half years ago, I got to attend and speak at that project, and that is a huge deal to have the Guard on the base. And so I say all of these things to explain, each year the chamber hosts it heads up an effort to go out and advocate for our base. And it's been interesting just in the time that I've been on the commission to see our points transform. And I will tell you, what typically happens is on day one, myself along with several other community leaders, Mayor Hubbard used to go as well, the current mayor, city manager, but community folks from the chamber, we get a briefing directly from top brass within the Marine Corps at the Pentagon. And they explain to us what their current mission is, what they're doing, how they're evolving, what their needs are, and that gives us direct information so that we can literally advocate for the funding that they need with our congressmen and our senators to better support the place that provides more than 4,000 jobs. So that's important. I've been very thankful to be a part of that process. It's a very meaningful process. And just to update you guys, over the past 2 years, one thing's been very apparent to me in getting those briefings from the Pentagon is the face of war is changing. It's no longer tanks and guns. I mean, of course, those are still part of it, but it is literally supply chain. It is logistics. It is computer warfare. It is sabotage. And a lot of the things that are happening out at the base are literally cutting edge. You want to talk about being on top of the game in terms of automation. It's incredible in terms of their, what's it called, 3D or 4D printing. I mean, some of the things that they're able to fabricate out there are absolutely incredible. And also, a lot of the discussions that we have as a community and that we have as a county, and we talk about things like broadband, which is a huge deal, and Commissioner Jones, I know that's a very big deal, particularly in your district. It directly impacts national defense. And one of the things that we were talking about when I was talking with the top staff at Pentagon, when COVID hit, and folks had to work from home. They have guys that are artisans that know how to fix this gun, this tank, this Humvee, this weapon, this device. And if they don't have access to broadband, and they have to dial up, or they literally cannot communicate with people that are in China, with people that are in Afghanistan, and it literally affects, little old Dougherty County affects how the Marine Corps is capable of taking on and performing its mission. And so that was a very interesting talking point. We also got some direct information about some of their needs, and just as a substantive update, because I don't want you guys to think I just go up there and eat sandwiches all day. It's a lot of hard work, but it's very meaningful work that is done up there. And so, two of the things that we learned about in particular was that MCLB Albany was in need of $46 million to create a consolidated communications center. The current center doesn't meet any of the Department of Defense requirements for IT infrastructure, and the new comms center would provide an upgrade and enable 5G technology. This is particularly important, as was demonstrated after the January 22nd, 2017 tornado. This allows them to have consolidated communications in the wake of a disaster, and allows it to be far, far more safe. It is the brain center for all installation, 5G enabled technology, and so it's something that we were advocating for with our congressmen and our senators. Secondarily, we were advocating for consolidation of 5 dispersed work centers that manage all the communications and electrical component requirements, and upgrades of equipment. This is a big part of the facility's modernization and consolidates all the electrical work. That's approximately a $56 million request that we also advocated for with our congressmen and our senators. And if I can get this, I don't think it's clicking for me.
You may have to come down in front of the well. You have to come down here.
Wendy, can y'all just click through for me, please? Met with Senator Warnock. He was very, very receptive, very pleasant, understood and received all of our points. He has a top-notch military affairs person that had really, really done a lot of hard work and homework and understood all of our talking points ahead of time. I will tell you, I was really, really impressed with his command of the knowledge, and how important the base was and is to Albany and also to our national defense strategy. I was very thankful for his engagement. If we could get the next slide, please, Wendy. Had a very good discussion, and I've met Senator Warnock when he's come down and visited before and talked to him about MCLB Albany in addition to some other issues relative to COVID. Very thankful for his participation and engagement. Just a great guy. Next, please. Congressman Bishop, probably one of our biggest champions for MCLB Albany. He has really, really gone to bat for us numerous times. We spent a lot of time with him and Kenneth Cutts, and very thankful. He's always very supportive, and his staff works very hard. We all joke he's the hardest working congressman up there, because he truly is, and very thankful for his partnership. Next, please. Austin Scott is one of our other congressmen. Again, was also very receptive and understanding, and I think it's important to note, like, this is a nonpartisan, or should be a nonpartisan issue. And so we're working with both Republicans and Democrats on supporting this investment here in our community. And we presented all of our congressional delegation with an offer of gratitude and a little home gift. Congressman Scott was very supportive as well. We go on to the next one. Keep going, please. This is some other pictures of some of the folks who are participating in the discussions. Next, please. And then we also met with Senator Ossoff. He was very engaged as well, very thankful for his support. When he first was elected, one of my first conversations with him was to make him aware of how important the base is, because it's integral to our community and to our overall economic makeup. And he's done a very good job in learning that information very quickly. Also wanted to acknowledge Stephen Carter, who did a really, really, really good job in explaining the intersection of our need for broadband, the city's current infrastructure. They've already paid to have, I think, 300 miles of wiring or cable put in that would support broadband. And what we've been advocating for is currently under, I think, SBA or USDA terminology, the city of Albany, Dougherty County doesn't qualify as a, quote, rural community, which those designations are created so as the folks that are, quote, rural communities can get access to broadband. But because we're too big of a small town, we don't qualify as rural. But in actuality, we have better capability of providing broadband to the rural communities around us if we were able to get access that type of grant funding. And that was something that Stephen Carter did a really good job. And we talked for a while about that with all of our congressional delegation, but that was a good talking point with Senator Ossoff in particular. And very thankful for that. Next slide, please. All right, very good. So I just wanted to provide that update to everyone on that. It was a very good trip. It was a hard-working trip, and was thankful to represent the community on that matter. So,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
Before you move forward, there, I appreciate your work, and appreciate everybody who was involved in that DC fly-in. My understanding, talking to some of the folks in that's close to the Marine base and so forth. Now, that since through all of the work that has gone into, we don't seem to have to worry as much about base realignment as we did several years ago, because of the fact that the conversation that I was in with some of the top brass out there said that mostly what was going to be happening, they were looking at Navy base stations, all them before. So we were high up on the list as far as trying to be realigned and things. So I was glad to hear that. But this broadband thing, we lost Jay Powell. Jay Powell was a very good advocate for this, for broadband in rural Georgia. And since he passed away, I mean, we've been getting bumps and bruises, but, you know, we still talked about. Matter of fact, I'm going to be on call tonight with the Southern Rural Black Women's Association. They called and asked me, they want to talk about broadband, and everybody want to talk about broadband. Sure. But broadband in rural Georgia is going to go through Clay, Early, all these counties. I'm thinking that everybody should be on the same page when it comes to broadband, because as you said earlier, you know, it's not going to be an Anthony Jones broadband, Chris Cohila's broadband. It's going to be a broadband that's going to go through Southwest Georgia, cover these 14 counties. So I'm going to hear the conversation out. I don't know what's going to be said tonight, but I will be on that call. But I'd like to see everybody I'd like to see a collaboration of broadband. If it's going to be talking about Southwest Georgia, I'd like to see a collaboration of one group, a collective group of people, so that we can all stay together and make sure that we get broadband and not just talk about broadband, if you understand what I'm saying.
No, I completely understand what you're saying, and I was very encouraged by being able to work with Stephen Carter. He's very collaborative.
He's very, very class act.
He's a class act, top notch, represented the city and the community very well. And I can certainly appreciate his spirit of collaboration in comparison to some past other folks, and appreciate that. And it was a team effort, and I'm just thankful for those opportunities. So, all right, very good. Let's move on. Mr. Lee, if we could have your presentation, please, sir.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's kind of awkward here calling on me to talk about your form of government. Of course, I've been under that form of government since 1979. And the reason it's awkward is I think most of you know what the form of government is, so I'm not going to get into details on it. I'm going to hit the overviews of the form of government, and then perhaps answer any questions you might have about any specific part of it.
Yes, sir.
Which might be the best thing to do. Now, of course, as you know, through your handbook for Georgia County Commissioners from the Carl Vinson Institute of Government, there are 5 different forms of government throughout the state of Georgia. There's a traditional commission, the sole commissioner, an elected executive, a commission form of government, and a city manager, county manager form of government. We have a hybrid of the county administrator, county manager form of government. And we've had that hybrid since 1941 forward. And that hybrid exists as a result of local legislation passed by the Georgia General Assembly and from some resolutions passed by the Board of Commissioners itself. That hybrid is codified in our Code of Ordinances, and I've given you some information up there that I'm certain you know about the codification, but you've got a packet there in front of you, and I'm not going to go over the whole packet, but in that codification of the local legislation and the resolutions, you'll find one dealing with county officers. And this is in our Code of Ordinances. You'll find one dealing with administration and the Board of Commissioners. And then you'll find one dealing with the Board of Commissioners and their responsibilities under our form of government. And then there are 2 additional pieces of paper there that you see. There are 2 memorandums there. And I want to go over a portion of one of the memorandums. I have dealt with this issue probably 7 or 8 times since my appointment in 1979. And the last time that I gave information to the Board of Commissioners was on December 12 of 2016. And that's one of the 2 memorandums you have there. If you'll look at that first one, I think, is on the top of your packet. If you haven't separated them, it says to all members of the Dougherty County Board of Commissioners. And that's from me as county attorney, and that's from Richard Crowdis as county administrator. Now, this arose as a result of a lawsuit that we were involved in during that period of time in 2016. That first page just sets up the form of government, the county administrator form of government, according to the Code of Ordinances that you have there. But let's go to the second page of that. If everybody has it there, let's go to the second page of that. And I want to read part of that. And it starts in what appears to be the second paragraph down that begins, based on this authority. The authority is set up in the first part of that according to your Code of Ordinances. And it says, based on this authority of the county administrator and the duties of the county administrator provided for by law, to the extent any of the members of the County Board of Commissioners wishes to discuss, whether by phone or in person, or communicate, whether by email, text, in writing, or some other form of written or electronic communication with someone concerning direction, management, supervision, or instruction on the administration and operation of any county departments, divisions, county programs, or county offices, or in reference to any performance or personnel issues pertaining to any employees who are not under the management and supervisory authority of the county administrator. Please make sure to direct any such discussion or communication directly to the county administrator rather than to any department heads or their subordinates. In short, under the county's government structure with department head, under the county's government structure, such direct communications by individual members of the County Board of Commissioners with department heads or their subordinates as far as issues with the administration and operation of the respective county departments, divisions, county offices, and county programs, and any personnel issues or concerns with any county departments or offices are not appropriate or consistent with the county administrative form of government structure. Any such concerns or issues should instead be directly communicated by members of the County Board of Commissioners to the county administrator, who will then discuss or communicate those issues or concerns with particular department heads or their subordinates as may be necessary or appropriate. In addition to that, the next paragraph says, please be aware that we are also contemporaneously providing written notification to all department heads as a reminder on the importance of adherence to the county administrative form of government. We are instructing the county's department heads that should any members of the County Board of Commissioners attempt to directly discuss or communicate with them or their subordinates as to personnel matters, operations, and administration of their respective departments contrary to the county administrative government structure established by law in Dougherty County, they ought to refrain from engaging in any such discussion or communication and should instruct the individual member of the County Board of Commissioners to address all such issues or concerns to the county administrator directly. Now, that was a result of some problems that we were having back in 2016, and it was direct and it's accurate. However, under a county administrative form of government, certainly the county administrator and all department heads and employees in the past, as I have known them to do, work hand in hand with each individual commissioner member to help that commissioner member provide the services that are needed to their constituents. So while that is strong language, that doesn't represent what goes on between the commissioners, department heads, employees, and administrative staff. That system has worked since 1941 to 1979 when I was appointed, and it works up until this day. Now, the county administrative form of government hires a professional to run the operations of the county. The county commissioners set the policy. The policy that is set is run by the professionals, and that's what you have today. Now, my understanding is that we want to talk about a particular section of the Code of Ordinances, and you've got that in front of you. You see section 2.2-21, use of county property by commissioners. If you'll all find that one page that's got that section on it, that one page under Article 2 of the Board of Commissioners. It says, no individual commissioner shall use or command to be used any county equipment, facilities, supplies, manpower, employee, vehicle, or other instrumentality without first seeking the approval of the county administrator or the approval by a majority vote of the Board of Commissioners at a meeting. Such use shall only be directly related to county business affecting the citizens of the county. Now, that section was passed by resolution in 1980, and I know why. I was there in 1979. we had a county commissioner, close friend of mine that graduated from high school with me, that would go to Public Works, want to ride around and operate the big equipment that we've got, both at the landfill and down at Public Works. And Public Works was one of the main departments that was doing most of the business back during that period of time. We were really the Board of Commissioners of Roads and Revenues. And so there were a lot of demands on Public Works for coming and scraping and cleaning and clearing and doing those kinds of things and taking care of drainage and all of those things, the landfill. So this commissioner was interested in the equipment, and he was riding around in the equipment. And I talked with him. He still rode around in the equipment. Then at the same time, back in 1979, we had a county commission chairman that occupied that county commission office full time. He was retired, and he stayed in there full time in that office. And that meant he had a close relationship with administration, with the staff, walking up and down the hall, using the bathrooms, talking to them, working with them all day, and to some extent interfering. And that became a problem. That became an employee problem. And we had to deal with that issue. So I talked with our chairman at that particular point in time. The commission was of a mind that it got so bad that the votes were there to kick him out of the office. And the commission was planning to do that. So what we did was we worked it out, and this resolution was passed, specifically for the employee problem and for the problem out at Public Works, dealing with employees, number one, dealing with equipment, number two, and quite frankly, it's passed in accordance with state law and with precedent through court cases. You can't use county equipment, and you can't involve yourself with the employees and talk to the employees in the manner that they were being talked to back then. So basically, it follows state law. And it was an easy reminder for the commissioners back then to rely on this to be able to say, here's what I can and can't do, because they weren't relying on it until it was passed, even though it was state law. So that's sort of it in a nutshell, and I don't think anybody disagrees with what I said. And I think everybody understands what that position is. But again, probably 10 to 15 times in the past, I've had to sit down, and you typically work it out with the employees, the commissioners, and administration, and everybody's happy. That 2016 memorandum had to be sent out because we were in the middle of a lawsuit. And so that's where we are with it now, and I don't think anybody's surprised by the form of government we've got. Professional hired, operates and runs the county, hires all of the staff, hires the department heads, oversees the hiring of all of the employees. That's simply where we are. And I'll try to answer any questions that you might have.
Sure, and Spencer, thank you for your work on this. And it's always good to be reminded of the policies and the laws and the rules. It's always good to provide a refresher course for everyone. And as I'm looking at this and the ordinance and hearing you talk, in actuality, the ordinance really didn't need to be passed because it really is the embodiment of what state law already provides.
That's correct. It just tracks state law, and it gives the commission the roadmap. Every county has either local legislation or they have resolutions that we pass, and they should have codified. Ours happen to be codified, and they happen to track state law in most cases.
Sure, and
all of this happened. All of these kind of things happened. I grew up in the 50s, and I saw it all happening, and then became county attorney in 1979. We were segregated, we were racist, we were this, we were that. You needed to put down objective standards under which your government was going to operate. And that's exactly what's happened with your codification. And again, just like you said, Mr. Chairman, if anybody goes back and you research case law, you research statutory law. It's codified in regard and in tracks those laws.
And one of the things that has always struck me about this ordinance, which we really don't need the ordinance, it just is there as a reminder, but it's actually there for the commission's protection as well as staff's protection, just in delineating the different lanes. And I'm reminded of, and I think it was interesting, y'all remember the story of Sidney Dorsey, the sheriff of DeKalb County that was actually tried at that courthouse right over there after, for the murder of Derwin Brown, and people always remember the murder charge, but they don't remember that he was also charged with racketeering and theft. And it was very interesting because even though he was the sheriff, he commandeered and used county property without authority and inappropriately, and that actually stood as part of the basis for his conviction. And I say all that to say this: it's always good to have those lines clearly delineated, and sometimes folks apparently, Mr. Dorsey, obviously didn't. He ran past a lot of stop signs, but that's one that's important because no single commissioner has the authority to do X, Y, or Z, or to tell staff to do X, Y, or Z. We work as a collaborative body. We have to pass policy, and then staff executes it. And then I've also had the observation to see in my own hometown, in Clayton County, where they had a stronger, it was a weaker county manager form of government, and I just say I saw some things happen that probably shouldn't have happened from the perspective of the chairman in that community, and I'm not speaking of anyone current, past, present, whatever. I'm just offering my own personal observations. It's always good to have lines so that everybody knows what their lanes are, because then that actually protects everyone. It makes sure, okay, we passed the policy, staff is supposed to execute, and then we go from there. And I thank you. This was a very thoughtful reminder of the delineation of those powers. There's a reason why you have separation of powers, and I think that's very important. Commissioner Edwards, did you have a question?
Yes, I appreciate you, Mr. Chairman. And it's on the agenda because I requested for it to be on the agenda. I think besides Spencer Lee, I can say I was sitting here in 1984. So I understand the past, and I remember some of those situations on that it's kind of funny how this snake continued to arise every so often, every 5 or 6 years. So those situations that we are talking about, one with using county property, that is not this case. While I wanted this on this agenda, I want to reevaluate it. It's two things I want to talk about. The first one is, I think once a person get elected as a county commissioner, I would like to see us have what we call an orientation for a new elected commissioner, just like we do ACCG. And what that means is, like, we sit down with whoever it is, where the county administrator or the clerk, and we talk about little things like this. It's kind of funny. I'm saying I haven't sat in this seat pretty much 27 years ago, and it's funny to me that I'm right back where I left off 27 years ago. And it was about the structure of a county commissioner. And at that time, I really didn't understand. I was, 21 years old. Now this little boy, he's 58. So when I say the orientation, is like, when I came back in 19, we have a badge, and I don't know if all of us have it. But when we had the pandemic, some of the commissioners, we couldn't get in the building. So again, if you have a newly elected county commissioner orientation locally, like we do ACCG, of the protocol of where your parking spaces, or who would be assigned if a commissioner wants to have a letter dictated, who is that particular person? Who make the reservations if we go out of town? So that's one thing that I thought about, that it's funny that we didn't have that 27 years ago. And so when you do get elected, you kind of fumble your way around and figure out who does what. And sometimes that's where you're saying, like, the lines might get crossed. Now, for me, those lines don't be crossed, because I was here when I was 21 years old. So I understand the role of a county commissioner. Now, what brings me to the point today is I actually contacted ACCG and said, do anybody have a structural policy of the role of a county commissioner? Now, the ordinance, that section that the attorney is talking about, use of county property by commissioners. All of us understand that. Even Spencer, remember the time Jack Stone went out there and told the person to go clean off a road. Well, we understand that. That is not where we are today. Where we are today is, I had an issue with 2 employees. Now, what I like to see this policy is reevaluated, that if a county commissioner, an employee has a problem, that it goes to, I'm looking for your leadership, Mr. Chairman, it might go to the Government Affairs Committee. It should not go to the county administrator. The county administrator is my highest paid staff member. Now, my conversation with my employees were based on job performance. If we apologize, if we intimidated or whatever, but you have to remember that we are accountable to our districts. Now, I know that all of us are always professional, but again, it's a myth. It's a myth that a county employee can write a concern and give it to the county administrator, and the county administrator is going to call that person in the office to give him 3 licks. That is not the case. You cannot write up a county commissioner. And this is a myth. Now, I don't have a problem with a complaint going to government affairs or a complaint going to my chairman. But again, I asked you in the past, I want to see a structural plan on if an employee have a problem that is necessarily don't go to the county administrator. It goes to the chairman or it goes to government affairs. So I'm just looking for your direction to which way, because just like now, we had a complaint, but it was nothing illegal done. It was a conversation. And so again, it's a myth. And even when we go back, not just me, other commissioners that presently sit have had some challenges, but what we continue to do is tip around it like an eggshell, and then it really just calm itself down. But we never really attack the issue that if any violation, and it was not any illegal violation, it was not from a court order, but I do get offended when me, myself, as a commissioner says, in the letter from the county administrator, if this county commissioner speak to you in the future, please contact me immediately. But that county administrator cannot reprimand me. You cannot reprimand me. I am reprimanded by my district every time I'm in that district. So when you say collaboration, when me as one commissioner, I'm not talking about big devils. If I'm talking to an employee, I want that employee to have the same respect and professionalism that, hey, this guy has the answer, not with sarcasm, but with the same professionalism, not saying it has not been done, and it's going to come up on the next item. The things we was talking about, One of them is those speed bumps. I've been asking for those speed bumps since February the 3rd. When you was absent, the lady came at that podium, and it's still not done. So going back to this policy is like, okay, a commissioner can speak to employees, and that's not any violation. And we always, as each one of us as commissioners, I know for myself, when I speak to an employee, I'm always professional, and I don't go around running to each and everybody's office. I don't go down to the tax department. So again, when that is done, I'm not gonna call my county administrator to ask him for Sam's phone number. That's a metaphor. I'm not gonna run everything through that county administrator. So again, when you're saying that's in violation of this policy, that is not the case. We ain't talking about stealing that. We only talking about talking to staff for information to provide the best service for our district. So that's why I asked it to be on the agenda. And I did receive this, and I ended. I did contact ACCG. In further response to your inquiry, ACCG does not have, nor we aware of any uniform or blanket policy that could be adopted to address the issues you described. So we talk about the structure, county commissioners, Mr. McCoy, staff member. And I know we always follow that. I understand the policy probably more than anybody. So again, it's like I don't want that myth out there that if you have a problem with the commissioner, you write Mr. McCoy, and Mr. McCoy gonna call you in the office. That's not this case.
So I have a couple of responses.
Yes, sir.
One, I like your idea of orientation.
Yes, sir.
I think that's a good idea. My reaction to the rest of what you said is mixed. And I'm not aware of any situation where any commissioner's ever been called into to be reprimanded by the county administrator. Now, there's a separate and distinct issue of when a commissioner's alleged behavior may or may not create a situation that causes liability on behalf of the county. That's a separate issue. Mm-hmm. And in that regard, as a fiduciary for the county and as the county administrator, he has a duty to take the complaint, make a report of it, and to place that commissioner on notice, and to take steps on behalf of the county to avoid liability. Now, in terms of making it where there's a situation where there's a complaint by an employee regarding behavior of a commissioner, and then us passing a policy that would then eliminate effectively the county administrator form of government by then requiring the employee not to report to their supervisor, but rather to a body of commissioners or a subsection of commissioners, that very same commissioner who did or did not do whatever they're accusing them of then sits on that board or that committee for purposes of determining their complaint or the validity of their complaint, respectfully doesn't make any sense. And I say that respectfully. That is how whistleblower lawsuits get enormous verdicts. And it also doesn't make sense, and it's directly counter to the state law provisions. Like, we are a county manager form of government. And so just like I can't go to your business, like I may support your business, I may be your customer, I can't go and tell your employees what to do because I can't do that. And our job is to set policy. Now, I agree 110% that there's no problem with us having discussions and informational discussions and requesting for information Where the problem arises, and I'm not saying that this did or didn't happen.
Correct.
Is when a commissioner, and I've seen this happen in the past, gives a directive to a staff member to do X, Y, or Z, or says, I have the authority to do this, or I have the authority to take your job, or you'll do this or else. And I saw how that story ended.
Mm-hmm.
That story ended with us writing a check, and ultimately, that commissioner had to deal with some things on their own. And so I don't think a policy change of the sort that you're suggesting, I agree with the orientation. I agree with the fact that we have the right to ask for information. But at the end of the day, no single commissioner represents the will of the commission to tell staff to do anything. The way the county works is that we have a meeting, pass policy, and then it's up to the administrator to execute that policy. And then we hold him accountable, we hold the police chief accountable, and we hold the county attorney accountable. Those are the three positions that we deal with. And that literally is for our protection. And I think that if we were to embrace a pursuit of a policy that literally eliminates a safe place for an employee to make a report, then I think that we would not even be able to get liability insurance, and we would end up like some other counties I've seen before, where we get sued and sued and sued, and literally you can't even get insured. I watched that happen in Clayton County with respect to a certain elected official there. I'm not picking on anybody, but it did not turn out well. And the county taxpayers ended up having to pay a whole heck of a lot of money, which was unfortunate, and became uninsured with certain components of government business, which is not a place that I think we need to be.
Yes, sir.
But I also can appreciate and understand that every commissioner has their own vision. I think that we share our visions at our meetings. We share them through collaborative discussions. They either gain consensus or they don't. We then vote on them. We implement them through the administrator. And then ultimately we then evaluate the administrator based on his or her performance. And that is my understanding. And those are my thoughts in just blunt, direct form. So.
And I appreciate that, but that is not where, in my particular situation, like I said, I've been here a long time, that I, as one commissioner, did not direct. I mean, I understand everything we do is going to have to come back to this particular board as a full board. So again, I don't want that misrepresented that Commissioner Edwards was telling somebody to do something, and if that person was doing that on their own, they know better themselves. So I'm not getting into personalities. I know the rules, and I know how to follow the rules. So I'm going back to this myth. That is my concern. I want the employee to have the many rights they have, whether it's through AOA, to whatever file or complaint they can do. That is not where I am with this morning. This snake continued to rise his head, so every 5 or 6 years, we come back to this same spot. And when I received this on my email from my county administrator, this is not how this is read, and no one elected official has ever done this. I mean, now what Spencer was saying back in the early 70s, you're right. John Bronson used to jump on the tractors and ride the tractor, but that's not the case today. The case, what I'm really after is, if you have a complaint, I would like that board, that government affairs, and if you want to say, if you have a problem with a commissioner, like I said, I'm not sitting down with any staff member. So again, it's like, I would have a problem sitting down with you. I don't have a problem sitting down with my colleagues. And I think that's where I am on that particular issue. So it was not when you said early on, this is what that response said. So again, we weren't being disrespectful. Mr. McCoy is my highest paid staff member. We hired
Our.
So
Our.
I want you to.
Our.
I said our.
You didn't, you said.
Well, you can be critiqued, but you understand. If you
It's an
want to be,
important distinction,
if you
though.
want to even be more specific than that, Mr. Chairman, the Lord allowed me to come back. That I'm the one who actually voted for him. So I am for him. I just don't want this misconception of that we cannot talk to employees if we like. And I know as one elected official that none of us have ever purposely done anything to disrespect any of our county employees.
I have a question.
So that's it
Chairman,
for
I
me.
can
My
make-
dad
let
is
me
not
make-
going, and I appreciate you listening to me. Okay.
Yes,
Let me
Commissioner
make a
Johnson.
suggestion about that, Mr. Chairman. I don't think we want to sit here and get into a debate or a discussion about what is or isn't in the memo that was sent and the reasons that it was sent. The way to handle this is for the commission to meet with you, me, and the chairman and the county administrator and try to work something out. That's how it's supposed to work. Now, we can't bring every one of these things and argue them on the merits from the commissioner's standpoint, from Mr. McCoy's standpoint, in the general public like this. There may be some answers to why that memo was sent.
Sure.
Unless we want to get into that right now.
No, I don't think that's needed.
I don't think we have to, but I want you to understand that we always have these quiet conversations that me as one is not going to march in your line. Like I said, you said 1979. I've been jumping through the hoops since 1984. And it's funny how I'm right back at this same situation that we left. So again, it's not get for tick for tax. I understand the role, and I just thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Johnson is next.
Yeah, my question was simply, if we've discussed speed bumps in open meeting, and Mr. McCoy has directed Mr. Addison or someone else to look into it, can that commissioner not follow up?
To ask about the status of it?
Yeah.
I think that's completely appropriate.
Okay. That's what I thought too.
But I will tell you what my personal practice is.
Yes, sir.
And this is, everybody is their own man and woman and their own elected official. I direct 100% of my inquiries to the county administrator first, so that he has the ability to know what I'm asking about. And I do that religiously, because allowing him to know what I'm asking about assists him in his job performance. And a lot of times it's via email, it's via phone call. Sometimes he'll pull me into a three-way phone call with someone else, or we have an email. And I try to really, truly respect that chain of command so that he has the ability to, and this is probably a product of me growing up as a son of a firefighter, where there was a very clear chain of command structure. And so I do always embrace that as a personal matter. I usually call him and say, hey, can I get some information about the status of this? And I get a response. And sometimes he'll say, so-and-so is going to call you. Boom. And then it's on his radar and it's on the other person's radar. That's my personal practice. That's worked for me well in the past. Commissioner Gaines?
Yes, thank you. I am sympathetic to what Commissioner Edwards is trying to say, because what I have observed is that he's very active in his community. There are a lot of demands on him in his community. And I think sometimes in the interest of efficiency, when the administrator knows that something is going on and is needed, he's calling directly to that employee to further discuss it. And I just can't see anything wrong with that at all. However, he has also requested, and if I heard him correctly, that if a problem arises, and I mean, it's human that sometimes these problems arise. Some of us deal with them in different ways. I had a little bit of a problem, and I just walked away from it, and I let it be, you know. But that may not have been the right thing to do, you know, because later, that same employee actually physically hit me. I still walked away from that because it didn't matter, you know, because I don't think there was any malintent. But it all depends on the commissioner and their sensibilities. But if in dealing with an employee and you end up with some kind of infraction, I think what Commissioner Edwards is proposing is an interesting proposal. And that is that if that arises, that complaint should come to the commission via the Government Affairs Committee, or, he said, or to the chair, and not to the county administrator to deal with. It's fine for the county administrator to hear it, but dealing with a problem involving a county commissioner perhaps would be better dealt with, and I think that's worth considering.
I kind of see your point there, Commissioner Gaines. That would be the better way to do that. But it all comes down to professionalism. It all comes down to professionalism, communication. Harry James said it best. Communication, distance doesn't separate it. It's communication. As we deal with employees, what I do, I'm a little bit different from you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a hands-on. I try to keep a good relationship with the staff, so when I go in and I want something, and I can go to, I want to be able to go to any one of the department heads and ask for information, or be able to pick up the phone and call that particular person without having to go through the county administrator, as long as everything remains on a professional level. When I get to a point where I can't get the information that I'm requesting from the individual, then I'll go to Mr. McCoy, because where I came from, university system, they always told us to work from the bottom up, because it doesn't look like you want to be disrespecting anybody by going directly to the top. So I always go in on the ground floor, try to get what I want. If I can't get what I want, then I'll pick up the phone and call Mr. McCoy and say, well, could you get this? Could you get that forward? So it's going to be all kind of scenarios, but we need to just have one size fit all, and not have a side that's going to whip somebody over the head because of the fact that things just didn't go their way. So we gotta work on this, and we can't do it here, but maybe at another time we need to sit down, look back over this policy, because like you said, you're talking about 1984, and all those folks gone, with the exception of 79, all this stuff. I think we need to look back on this thing here and tailor it to fit the needs of the sitting commission in 2021, like we was telling Fredo this morning. Look back on it sometime and maybe get back together, maybe at a retreat or something, and look over this and see where we need to go with this right here, or whether the whole thing need to be thrown out and something else put together. But this is not the time nor the place to air our dirty laundry in public.
Well, again, I've asked several times, and I think I asked the chairman, and you know, whether it met, what we call it, an executive session, I don't know. But I'm at the point now where I'm pleading to the commission, so my venue is this. You know, like I say, I like to just have a meeting. I ain't talking about no retreat no year later. I'm saying let's meet and have an informal meeting with commissioners. That's what I'm asking for. Now, if we don't want to do that, this is my time.
Well, and perhaps I think what's striking me is that there's a communication problem, because I thought the matter, frankly, was resolved. Reality is, you talked about myths. Well, one of the myths is no one reprimanded you. No one. No, so I mean, like, the concept that you were reprimanded is a myth.
No, the concept saying meet with me, again, I'm going to end it. I've asked you to have a meeting with us, and however your leadership direct us, I'm willing to follow that.
Right.
So we really can end it.
It seems to me you're asking two different questions here. I don't know whether you're asking that this matter be further fleshed out.
Correct.
Right, so like when I offered, we can discuss it in an open meeting, or I can get you the information in a private meeting with me, or with Spencer, or with both. That would have been the type of resolution you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
But
just
I
wanted to make
told
sure, 'cause
you,
that's-
I didn't want to meet with Spencer, and I don't want to meet with Mike. I wanted to meet with you or us.
Okay.
Because it's some other issues like Spencer saying.
So you would not want there to be a meeting? Okay, I understand.
I want us to talk.
Well, can you please tell me what you meant by the government affairs?
Well, I would like,
Because it seems to me it's in contradiction with what you.
No, it is, because see, the chairman is not, he's not making a motion to say, I would like to look at some updating on the policy to be sent to the government affairs, and you guys look at it.
That's our form of government, though.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
The Government Affairs Committee cannot change our form of government.
No, but there's some things we can look at. When you say change it, just evaluate it and come back to a
But it's already
recommendation.
written, so a couple.
You can add it, Russell.
But a couple fundamental points, all right? Number one, it is not a hierarchical situation.
Right.
Mike is the chief administrative officer of our organization. The board sits beside him. We don't have any more power than him. Everybody
The board
else,
does not sit beside
yes, they do. Everybody else sits under Mike. They are employees. Let me finish now. Just hold on. The reason that policies are there that board members, and this is not just government, this is business too. Board members who are not employees of the organization don't interact with employees for a reason. We do not go through the same human resources training. We do not go through, and especially from a managerial perspective. If you're a manager in a big organization, and you probably did it with MARTA, there are all these meetings you have to go to about how to handle employees, how to engage with employees, and it's there to protect you from risk, from lawsuit, of hostile work environment, of any type of oppressive or accusational situations. And there are best practices that are taught to staff from the top down. If you're going to manage somebody, there are things that you have to do and can't do. There are policies and procedures and rules within the organization. Board members don't go through that same training. Because we generally do not have the engagement with employees. Now, I know Anthony is one who's always working in a positive manner with staff. Hey, is there an update on this? I'm just trying to get my constituents informed. He's not asking that employee do something differently for him. He's asking for an update or for information. And he's still including everybody who needs to be included. And, I do believe in every organization I've ever worked in, if a superior came in an office and had a conversation about their opinion of that employee's performance, and that superior was never trained on HR policy and procedure, that's unethical and in many cases illegal from a equal opportunity employment perspective, from a legal perspective. And so Mike's job, and it's written in both of these letters, is clearly to, we are informing each of the members of the County Board of Commissioners to refrain from discussing or communicating with you or your subordinates as to any issues or concerns they may have with personnel matters, administration and operations of your respective departments, but to instead address any such concerns with issues directly with the county administrator. So their chain of command is up to our county administrator through their department heads. If they need to go directly to HR on something, they can do that. But we don't have that same policy coverage because we have a different role to do as board members versus employees.
You know, there's a difference between policies and practices. Within the framework of a certain policy, you can establish more finite practices that will kind of address the situation, where it's fairly clear that you can call Mr. Addison and say, look, what's the latest on that study about speed bumps in Southgate? There's nothing, there's nothing wrong with that, so, I mean, why can't that just be discussed, fleshed out at a larger level by the Government Affairs Committee? They come back and say, since this seems to be something that crops up every now and then, it is fairly clear to us that under certain circumstances, you can.
So,
do
no,
this.
no, there's no.
Let me finish. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
You mentioned MARTA. I was assistant general manager at MARTA, vice president. I've been hit upside the head by some of the best. Joe Lowry, Juanita Abernathy, some of Atlanta's finest, But I didn't go tell my general manager. I had to deal with it myself, And they dealt with us on an individual level, And when you reach that level in an organization, what you need to do is try to help a person understand that it ain't personal, that what they're trying to do is address their constituents' needs,
Right.
That nobody's attacking you.
There's a big difference between calling Scott and saying, hey, just want an update on that speed bump study, versus going in Scott's office and saying, hey, I have grievances with you personally and professionally, and here's what they are.
Well,
it's not up to board members to have closed-door discussions with employees that are involved in an issue that that particular commissioner doesn't like. That's when you have the buddy system.
I hear you, Commissioner, but what I'm saying is that a sit-down meeting, which is what he's calling for, you can kind of flesh that out a little bit. And
absolutely.
Much like the one that I offered. Sure.
And help us to understand what is acceptable and what is not.
I'm going to recommend what the University of Georgia did when we have issues that come up all the time. We all need to have a sensitivity training meeting and have someone from the University of Georgia come down and talk to, because there is a training that we went through called sensitivity training to address these issues and kind of put us all on the same page. It may be a good day to spend a half a day in sensitivity training through the Carl Vinson Institute. They have that information out there.
Folks just need to be grown folks, for Christ's sake. Good grief. You ain't no baby.
All right. Very good. Next, let's see. Okay, Mr. Lee, did you have anything else?
Yes, I do have one thing. When you get to the executive session, it just says potential litigation, but we're talking about potential litigation, pending litigation, and personnel to go in for all three. When you get to the executive session, potential pending litigation and personnel. When you call a question.
I understand. I'm just making a few notes, Mr. Lee.
Nothing else, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Mr. McCoy, do you have anything else?
Nothing further.
Okay, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes, going back to, I think the county administrator sent an update on those speed comment tables. Did you still have it? Well, I'd like you to read what you said. I guess you sent it to all the commissioners, so I'd like to address that based on, your comment back to the Southgate community in reference to the speed bump.
Yes, so we followed the county's policy. There was a delay in the implementation of the speed study because of coronavirus, broken equipment, and we made that known to the public in an update for you. And the speed study subsequent to that public meeting was implemented as stated. during the update, and the results came back, and it didn't meet county policy. I think over 90% of the traffic on that road were going below the speed limit, and it didn't warrant speed humps. And I received a follow-up from you when I sent out the mass email to the board advising everyone of the results. And since the update was public, the results were public to the entire board, and you wrote me back and said that we needed to find, put the speed bumps in. And so I responded, Commissioner, that is a policy issue. I don't have the authority to not follow county policy. So if the board is going to decide to ignore the findings of its traffic calming policy, then that's a board decision, not the administrator's decision.
I can answer that. The board has to follow the policy. They can change the policy, but while the policy's there, they've got to follow the policy.
And we've denied previous applicants, and we've gone through we followed the process. We've sent them notices that they've been denied. And so, again, it's a policy decision and not one made by the county administrator.
Right. Or any decision made by any single commissioner.
Right. We appreciate that. And again, here we go with them little twisted words. That is not what we said. I asked you also to send back, do you have any alternative recommendations? And that's where I am coming back to the board. Because when in your absence, you had the people from that particular area came and did their presentations. Appreciate Albany Herald doing a great story on the front page for it. But the 10% of the people, Mr. Chairman, as well as the board members, as Ms. Frazier spoke, it wasn't the 90%, it was you had 2 accidents on that particular intersection. So again, what are some of the alternatives? Again, like the attorney just stated, that's our local policy. But also, you have another speed table in the same community on a straighter thoroughfare that did not meet the policy. But again, they was put in. So again, that's where I am. What are some of the alternatives that this commissioner that can, relieve that particular community?
All right. Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Edwards?
Yes. One thing I like to throw on the table is, can we come up with a cost of what it will cost for speed tables or alternative lighting for that particular community in that particular curve, in light of you've had 2 accidents. So do I need to put that in the motion?
Yeah, well, so the cost should be around, is it 8,000 or more for a speed?
I'd like to, if we're going to review this, we get the information, we have it on an agenda, and it's not just a private discussion that happens on email. Everyone gets the information, staff's prepared. Why don't we just put this on a work session moving forward? Let us know what the results were and any other information instead of us doing it on the fly, and have a real discussion about it. And I'm fine with that.
Go ahead. See, this is it right here. This is a perfect example. Okay. When in your absence, everybody was in here pretty much knows on the front page about those speed bumps. So our staff came and said it does not meet policy. My thing as that representative, like, come back to the table in front of the full board with some alternatives or with some suggestions. So it should be on a work session. It should not even be on this discussion. So again, we just cut it off, knowing that.
Who's we? I don't understand. Who is
staff?
The we? They cut it off.
Mike just cut it off and said it does not meet our policy.
Well, that was the ask.
That's the ask. But then also, Commissioner Russell, he knows, as well as you know, that the community is going to continue to come back. Commissioner Edwards cannot come back to the podium and say, what is some of the alternatives? So it ain't no Victor Edwards. I don't need no speed bumps in my house. I'm not asking for speed bumps for Victor Edwards.
I still don't understand. Like, this is a normal discussion that we have.
But the normal discussion should already be, like you said, Mr. Chairman, on a work session. What I'm saying,
That doesn't make sense.
it does make sense because
Let me finish.
It should be on the work
I'm
session.
speaking right now. Here's my point. We had them evaluated in light of the policy.
Okay.
That literally is a yes or no analysis.
Okay.
Either it does or it doesn't. It's like you're either pregnant or you're not.
Okay.
Like that's it. Okay, so that determination has now been made and it's been reported to us. Now, if we want to have a discussion and see if there is consensus to abandon a policy that establishes a uniform way of making sure that everybody's speed bump requests are treated the same.
Correct.
As opposed to doing what one individual commissioner may want in one single district, because that money comes from a finite pool of money, and placing priority on it over others. So if we want to have a policy discussion, then the time for us, that's our job,
Correct.
is to do exactly what you're doing right now, is you're raising the issue so that we can discuss it. And I'm happy to have a policy discussion about that issue. That's not for Mr. McCoy to do. That is classically and precisely what we don't need for him to do, because he's in charge of operations. We asked him to evaluate. Did it meet the policy? Did it not meet the policy? It did not meet the policy. Okay, well, until we decide as a board through consensus or discussion, whatever, I'm happy to put it on for a work session. We can develop the agenda that way, and I'm happy to support that.
I agree with Commissioner Edwards. You know, because I've said going to this nuclear option of traffic control in residential neighborhoods of putting speed tables in is obsessive, it's cost ineffective, and it's all about changing driver behavior, right?
Right.
So I've mentioned before, we need to look at a graduated policy of traffic control in residential areas. So I propose that at a work session, we have staff prepared to talk with us about what could be a graduated policy. Can we look at some of these speed sensing flashing signs that we can put up to make people aware? The neighbor who came up, I remember this distinctly, didn't say that the problem is people speeding because the speed limit's too high there. It's people ignoring the speed limit, and especially youngsters in their fast cars going too fast. So maybe it's a traffic patrol issue.
Well, if you've had two
Okay,
accidents.
so, you know, we can look at root cause analysis, but before we jump to, I mean, the problem with this is there was no graduated policy in place to say, what can we do to mitigate the accidents that are occurring more frequently in this area? Let's step up some
Mr.
efforts.
McCoy, please place on the next work session this discussion about the policies that are consistent with what Commissioner Edwards and Commissioner Gray and I've talked about. Commissioner Gaines.
I think what Commissioner Edwards was trying to say is that when the county administrator realized that it didn't meet, that this particular solution did not meet the policy required to implement it, then we still have the problem. Then what should have happened is that he came back with a proposal to address the problem. I think he's talking about problem solving more than anything else. Don't just say that it doesn't meet this particular requirement,
Mr. McCoy.
but here's the solution.
Mr. McCoy.
So I received an email directing me to place speed humps anyway, regardless.
No, you
of
didn't. Wait a minute, Mike. I didn't send you that to you.
That's my recollection. That we need.
No, it wasn't no recollection. You look at your email. I've never directed you to do anything like that. Why would I do that when I know it has a cost? When I know you have to put it out for bid? Come on now, y'all stop playing that game. I never told you to go out there and put no speed bumps.
No, I
I
think
wouldn't do
just
that.
as a general practice, when we have problems, and sometimes a commissioner may propose a solution, but that might not be the right solution. And I think the county administrator needs to feel free to come back and say, Commissioner, this does not meet our requirement, but here is a possibility. And I think that is the way you address that kind of situation.
I think that's a communication issue, and I think we can easily move through this. This doesn't have to be this hard.
No, it doesn't. I agree with you. It doesn't. I mean, if there's a problem, you may say we need speed bumps, but that you may not need speed bumps. There may be a better solution or an alternative solution, and he needs to feel free to propose that.
Now, Mr. Chairman, if you go pull the minutes, Ms. Frazier came to that podium. Her request went in February the 3rd. I shouldn't even be having this conversation today. And she did a formal request in front of everybody. Look at the minutes.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Commissioner Edwards?
Yeah, one last thing. When you mentioned the statement of saying, as a board, when we bring things to the table, well, when Mr. McCoy brings stuff to the table, we hire CORE to look at some stuff. We then come back to this table and discuss how much we was gonna pay our outreach program for evaluate how we gonna spend our ARP money. So I want this day to end that I am a team player and I do not misuse any county staff or anybody. And I've been along with anybody, even when I left, I had more time. But I don't do that. And I don't like this twist of playing these words. I'm through, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much, Commissioner Edwards. Commissioner Jones.
Yeah, one thing, Mr. Chairman, we've had a couple of rezoning requests in my district.
Yes, sir.
And it disturbs me. We had a group come talking about they wanted to put in a movie theater near a racetrack, which was really just, way out of line. As soon as we got the rezoning passed that morning for the movie theater, they moved in 150, 200 cars down there trying to have some type of a car lot or something. So code enforcement, they was able to get those folks out. Had another gentleman come in District 6. He says on Antioch, you all may not remember, but Antioch and Westview, he said to us plainly and bluntly that, I want to put in a barbecue. I want to put in a barbecue joint there, and also I want to put in a barbershop. And okay, we come up this weekend. I just happened to be having a neighborhood. Well, I was part of our neighborhood watch in Putney, and all of a sudden the tide has changed, and he want to put in some type of automobile dealership down there, brokers. But we found out that we couldn't do this. But I'm having a problem with people coming to tell us that they're going to do one thing, and then they come deceive us, and then once the rezoning, they think everything's just going to quiet down, and then you'll be able to do your own thing. So I want us to maybe talk about this at a work session as well with maybe on the same one, and have Mr. Forgey, he's gone now, and have code enforcement to come in, because of the fact that we shouldn't have folk trying to deceive us, saying one thing and doing another, thinking that they're going to be able to get away with it, and that doesn't sit good with those folks in Putney either.
I agree with you, and I don't know how to title that, but I'm thinking, give me 1 second, I'm thinking, it's almost a request for a compliance analysis or of some sort from code enforcement with respect to certain projects where they say one thing, but they put in something completely different.
And there should be a penalty, of some sort to make sure, because if you don't penalize somebody, they'll continue to do this, and for you to come and stand before the commission and try to deceive the commission, and then you come up and do something totally different. I know mine's changed, but we got to go by that zoning request.
Mm-hmm.
We could always make the approvals conditional on that type of business going in there within a certain time frame.
Something. We just need to do something.
All right.
Good point.
Very good.
That's great.
Commissioner Gaines.
Nothing, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, sir. I got a couple things.
Yes,
one, although Spin Right is closed its operations at Coates and Clark's plant in East Auburn, I do want to thank them for their 75 years of being in our community, and leaving that distribution center here is going to still help some. There is a job fair, and I think everybody got this in their emails as well, but the job fair at the Civic Center is November 9th from 2 to 7 at the Civic Center. Anybody can go to the job fair, but Spin Right employees are really asked to try to be there. There's some special things that are going on for them in that closure and loss of their job. Excuse me. Also, Mr. Chairman, will this commission please direct our administrator to have Mr. Forgy review our state code or review our local code and adopt the state regulations on what is called tiny homes? It's a up and coming thing around. I think the state.
Pardon my ignorance. What you said? Tiny homes.
Yes, sir. The tiny homes code for Albany and Dougherty County.
What does? And I'm not trying to be funny.
Yes, sir.
I just don't know what that.
I think it's something
is.
that's under 400 square feet. It's something like that. But he knows the difference.
Are these the things that they use in, like, I've seen some folks that deal with homeless folks, they put in these tiny homes or, frankly, I don't know what generation of 19 to 20-year-old, what we call this generation, folks, but people that go when they live in a 400 square foot home.
Right. Yes, sir. I think Elon Musk has one.
So, Mr. Chairman, on the tiny homes, I have a
It's
file
called
set
Dragon
up on
Age.
tiny
Yeah.
homes.
So
I got you.
What we need to
but
happen
there's
is
a
the zoning regulations would have to be amended, and he needs to talk with Paul Forgy. Paul Forgy's up to speed on that.
So I'm gonna say a little. I'm sorry, Spence, I didn't say it loud enough for you. Yes, can this commission direct Mr. McCoy to speak to Mr. Forgy about adopting the state's tiny home policy? The state has passed a regulation that is in line would be in line with the county. I'm asking Paul to bring that before us so that we can adopt it.
Can we get a, I'd like to take one step first, because I'd like to actually learn a little bit more about it. So here's what I would say is, Mr. McCoy, can you have Mr. Forgy provide us an update on the state tiny home ordinance?
For Dougherty County to adopt.
I'd like to hear what it is, and then we can have a discussion about it, and if we need to invite a couple Keebler elves to attend, we can do that as well.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
Yes.
Regarding Coates and Clark, that is not a very attractive building they have there. And I'd just like to know if these guys are gonna demolish that building. I would hate to see that building sit there and deteriorate and become unattractive when they leave it. So what is their plan for abandoning that building?
I think, Commissioner Gaines, if you look at that building, standing right in front of it, the right-hand side of it, where the administrative office is a very nice marble-faced building on the right-hand side facing it. Okay. The factory side of it, where they have the coal and whatnot on that side, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think there is negotiations about bringing in a new factory or a new tenant in that building. Okay. I'm not sure if they're going to sell it. I'm not saying that.
Well,
but
we just don't want them to abandon it and leave it and let the vines grow up in it, because it could become very unsightly.
I do not know what the decommissioning of that building process is going to be at the current time.
We sure need to know.
Yes, ma'am. As soon as I find out, I'll make sure we get that information.
Sure. Okay. All right.
And then,
yes,
thirdly, but most importantly, I think this is homecoming week for Albany State University. And so I want to make sure we welcome all the alumni and celebrate that wonderful university in our community. It's such an asset, and just want to make sure I mention that this is homecoming week.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioner Gaines. I'm sorry, I already called it. Commissioner Gray.
Nothing further.
All right.
Commissioner Newsom is on the phone still?
Yeah, Commissioner Newsom, thank you.
Did he go to sleep?
Nothing else.
All right. Very good. This time, I'll consider a motion for approval of the recommendation from the county attorney to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing potential and pending litigation as well as personnel matters, and then to adjourn.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? There being none, call the matter for a vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?